From Alaska, Grim After Dark, starring Jon and Danny.
This is Grim After Dark. Welcome, guys. Tonight, actual professional television producer and amateur Val Heffelfinger impersonator, Nick Horton joins myself and Danny to look at the reduced set of memes and talk shop about Games Workshop's foray into Hollywood. My name is Jon. I cannot read or talk. It's pretty standard at this point here, but it's going to be still pretty grim after dark.
Well, it sounds like a made-up job. So I work in development, which is basically coming up with ideas for TV shows and then getting told no. That's the main hold of it. But it's kind of fun. Like it's it really is like you kind of basically, think of anything exciting, think of anything, and you're just trying to work out what do people want to watch, what's the market want to watch. And then increasingly what people were willing to pay for, like networks and studios, which is really the main name of the game.
Yeah, I think it's weird we start talking about production jobs and TV development, and instantly the bots arrive offering us sexy good times on YouTube, which is just peak time on that.
They're hoping for an internship.
Yeah.
Well, we also need an intern after Nightbot kind of really screwed up and didn't catch any of those guys.
So Nightbot.
last year, a couple of years ago, and actually, let's stop this for a second. Tech Priest Dicky brings up a good point in chat. Why is it always the porn bot that attacks our show? Like, doesn't happen on Signals. Don't think it happens that much on the Thursday show. Why is it us? What is it that attracts the degenerate? Well, I answered the question.
It's my
yeah, I heard halfway through. And Danny, jump in anytime with questions here as well.
Sure.
But just to set this up, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, in fact, a little over a year ago now, Warhammer Plus launched, which is kind of their poorly marketed, everything in one place, I would say, things, including kind of Warhammer TV. So with that kind of in mind, with their releases over the past year, in your sort of professional opinion, what is Games Workshop doing really well?
So it's, I would say they've realized that what they have isn't just a game, and what they have is a massive piece of IP. And I think one of my favorite quotes I like to steal often is a writer I follow on Twitter says basically like, even my tweets need IP these days. And that's basically what it comes down to. People won't commission, greenlight, anything. They're very, very scared. Like Hollywood has always been a very conservative, scared industry. And particularly now, coming off the pandemic, coming into what is likely to be a recession soon, gone are the days where you can just take a risk on something. And unfortunately, the risks are where the giant IP comes from. So we're kind of like in a slightly, snake eating its own tail situation. But to go back to your original question, what Games Workshop is doing really well is realizing what they've got. I remember, I think it was, I was at SoCal Open, and the FLGN's very own Andrew Dickinger said to me, he thought that the Games Workshop IP was like one of the biggest IPs in the world, up there with Star Wars, Marvel. I agree. No, I disagreed with him then, but I don't disagree with him entirely. I think it's almost like an iceberg IP. There's like a very small bit general people are aware of, and underneath is so much more. So to kind of wrap this up, because I am talking a lot now, is what they're doing well is finally realizing they've got something which people love and lots of people could love.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just as a heads up, we're doing the old school, like original Grim After Dark, where we do 20 minutes of terrible jokes, then complete tonal shift to pretty in-depth.
Hard right turn.
Yeah, I'll just, make up some stuff and later on then.
I love it. So you touched on a little bit that people aren't really taking risks and with an impending, but the advent of streaming and kind of the increase of streaming as a primary sort of release method. Has that hurt or helped IPs like Warhammer more? Because now, obviously it's mass choice has increased its ability and platforms where it can go, but it's also kind of buried around other properties or kind of being thrown out. It seems like everything with any IP past 10 issues of a comic or one book is kind of being offered things now.
Yeah, I think the shareholders demand content. I do, and I sort of hate and love that term content, because you shouldn't be describing what should be really amazing pieces of art as content. But unfortunately, it's kind of like it's what they need. The streaming services need it. The ones that don't have it die a very quick death and go away. And it's why, I don't know whether you follow industry news, but there was a lot of kind of like fear that HBO Max was about to go away because Discovery has merged with Warner Brothers, and Batgirl got cancelled. I don't know if anyone was aware of that. So it was a $90 million movie, which is just shit canned, which is insane. But then, I could go into various reasons and why that probably happened. That's probably for a different podcast.
I think if you watch the musical The Producers, you have a pretty good
Yes.
idea of when that was cancelled.
Yeah, yes and no. But I think that, is a large part probably of it. And it's the reason they're going to say. But also, Warner Brothers Discovery is also sitting on DC, which is, I know Marvel was the top dog, but Superman, Batman, arguably Wonder Woman, they're your big three, right? And Warner Brothers has the biggest IP in the game. And so, that's why they're willing to kind of throw anything, do whatever. The fact of the matter is their streaming service will always work because of their DC content. It's the same reason why Disney went on that insane spending spree. But yeah, so I think it has helped. It's also hurt it to a degree in that there's a lot of, obviously, project competing in a very similar space. We can talk about certain sci-fi shows recently that haven't probably done as well as they should have, which, and other ones which, so we talk about, say, Halo, right?
Sure.
Halo was Paramount Plus. A very long time. It was originally going to be a Peter Jackson movie. Eventually had a home on Paramount Plus. That, obviously, I don't know who greenlit it originally, but it wasn't Paramount Plus. It just ended up there. And we've got this show about genetically modified super soldiers fighting alien threats, and it did not do very well. So you got to think, does that help or hinder any potential Warhammer project?
I think it really increases the chance of seeing Space Marine ass, which was, again, my number one takeaway from Halo. Was
I hope so. Yes.
So Nick, in that kind of scenario, do you think it's more worthwhile for GW to focus less on like their Marine content and more on some of like their other intellectual property if they wanted to get like a show greenlit?
So I think there's obviously two schools of thought. So Space Marines are iconic, and you need them in the show, whatever you do. There's no doubt about that. A show about Space Marines would probably be not very good. Yeah. And because you just don't have, your human. It's a bit like when you read the Horus Heresy books, you think the remembrances are quite dumb, but actually they're the key to the whole thing working, because it's that kind of human viewpoint. And then, so it's not. I'm not like. I'm only saying very obvious things here, but I know they were trying to get Eisenhorn away, right? That was reported. It was everywhere. I don't know the status of it. I do know that getting a show away is incredibly hard, but that was probably the right way to do it. Interestingly, there's a whole bunch of to get a show made isn't just like Games Workshop being like, cool, we're ready to make a show, let's do it. So they would want nothing more than to have a show on Amazon, or probably Amazon, I reckon, or HBO, or whoever would pay for it. But that'd be their dream for them. So many new fans, so many new eyeballs. But to get that way, they've got to, it's just beyond having a really good script, which I'm sure exists. And it's not even having, say, Henry Cavill attached, right? Just so they have Henry Cavill attached. I don't know if they do, but he definitely loves Warhammer. So, and then it would be like, okay, Henry Cavill introduces them to his agent. So he's repped by CAA. and then CA get involved and they try and package the whole thing. So normally that involves them doing the other clients, which amazingly they also rep Kanye. So you could have Kanye as, as I don't know, the God Emperor. So
Hey, we're like
Please.
perfect casting for Vulcan.
right? And it's just like, but you know, Pete Davidson they also rep, so you know he can be in it. I don't know.
Solid Rogel Dorn.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
exactly.
I'm out.
And then,
I'm out again.
And then Tom Hanks, right? So, but no, what they do is they try and package it up together with their showrunners, their the actors they know, and then take that out to market once they've got like, look at all these people we've got on board. Look, Spielberg's directing the pilot, you know. However, to go back to what I was saying earlier, is the market is so such a weird place. There are projects going out at the moment with huge stars attached, not getting green. So I think if you read their recent like quarterly report, they talk a lot about taking the time to get the media right and the IP right, and you can basically control entertainment media IP, and you'll see that actually. Reading between the lines, they're stuck in what's called development hell. So they've obviously got a project; it's not going anywhere, and we'll see. Look, but then again, it could be next week. Suddenly, something's announced. That's how things can just turn around sometimes.
Yeah. We do have Ikbard letting us know on YouTube. He's wanting to know, and this I guess goes to both Nick and producer Val here. At SoCal Open, could we do a photo op with my emotional support tank and my mental health titan? I don't know if that's code for something, but I'm sure. I mean, what's your going photo op rate, Nick?
Yeah, I think I would love that. Did you say an emotional support tank?
Yeah, I'm imagining not like a tank vehicle, but like a Bacta style tank from Star Wars that he has to stay in
like-
between rounds.
Like Boba Fett,
Yeah,
he
you
just
won't
goes
be
in
in
as
prison for
flashbacks.
Yeah. So
That'd be nice. I'd love
he
that.
goes over the games after they're done, as he has to have flashbacks in a Bacta tank.
I mean, look, to kind of like big up the FLGN, like there's such, we get tens of thousands of viewers watching 3-hour games of Warhammer streamed on TV. There's clearly a market here for something a lot more accessible.
Yeah. On that accessibility part, Warhammer lore is obviously huge and expansive, and it's kind of almost 40 years worth of stories and design. Do you think kind of the more problematic parts of the lore that have been put in there, like the some of the Matt Ward stuff, like the sisters of battle being murdered to kill, like cover Grey Knights in blood, and the Iron Warriors weird reverse womb things? Do you think that hurts the property as something that can kind of come out? Where like we have this Warhammer show, it's great, yeah, but I read on like Wahapedia that this happens.
I mean, look, all I can say is Kevin Spacey and Mel Gibson are still making plenty of projects. So I just don't think, unfortunately, if they could be the worst things in the world, and if there was way for shareholders to maximize value off of it, they would do, and a way for people to get money on it. But ultimately, look, Warhammer rehabilitated itself to be a kids product, so I think it can probably be okay. It's I think one thing I would like it to, again, much like yourself, John. Like I grew up, I was a kid in the late 80s in the UK when all this was coming out of, and it was such a group of weird nerds who made this as a reaction against Thatcherism and a lot of and I guess Reaganism over here. You don't want to sand it, which unfortunately probably would happen, but you don't want to sand down the edges so much that you're just getting Halo, the TV show, right? Sure. You want it to be weird enough. Like if you name anything which is successful and popular, pre the final 2 seasons, Game of Thrones, right, was very much true to itself and just didn't give a fuck, right? And that's like sometimes it made for good decisions, sometimes bad decisions, but ultimately it's what people responded to. It's why the prequels endure and the sequel trilogy will be forgotten. It was Lucas's vision. Whatever you think about that vision, it was his vision, and with all its weird stuff around it, while the sequels was made by committee. And you won't have a generation of kids, I would love to be wrong, but in 20 years' time, you won't have kids trying desperately who are now adults bringing back the sequel trilogy.
No, which is a real shame because this guy invested heavily on Poe Dameron merchandise after episode 7. And then they just stopped making Star Wars movies after that point. Oh,
the
boy,
Poe
it makes me
Dameron
really sad.
portfolio does not win out.
Do you think like Oscar Isaac just in his house just like has a Poe Dameron costume?
Okay, if I was in all of these things, like, for Oscar Isaac, like Moon Knight, like Star Wars, I would steal every single costume I was fitted into. Be like, I'm just going to jump in my car real quick. I'll be right back. And like, who lost my costume? Like, so many like interns on the set would be fired for losing product. It'd all just be in my wardrobe.
Just like your house is just made of props. Just like
for sure, like no normal clothes. Like if I'm going to like a Starbucks in the morning, I'm just dressed as Moon Knight because that's all that's clean at the time.
Like not even the Mr. Knight, just the actual full on.
That was the style at the time.
Yeah, you're like, I'm really hungry. I need to go for breakfast, but damn if this wrap doesn't take forever to go around my wrists.
Can only go out once a day.
Mediocre Bray Shaman's coming in saying, The Boys is a good example of being unapologetically satirical. 40K to do it, but they seem a bit too gun-shy these days. Now, a property like
That's
The
fair.
Boys, how does that compare to you? Because the change from comic to TV for that one was huge. Essentially where some characters share name alone with what they're seeing on screen. Do you think that's something that could happen to like a 40K property?
So, I only read the initial run of The Boys. I don't know how much it permeated like culture. Do the comics have it's Warhammer as itself is a lot bigger with a lot more dedicated fans. I think, but then again, I think if you can change the lore and you can make something your own if you do it in a way which honors the original and is its own thing and not just trying desperately to be a cash-in. I don't know if anyone's seen Strange New Worlds, the Star Trek prequel. So it's set just before the Kirk years. It's got Captain Pike and it's got Spock and like young Uhura. It's brilliant. It's true to what Star Trek is. It does its own thing. It often ignores lore and canon, but in a way where you're like, okay, I don't. It's not like shitting all over what you grew up with. People will always complain no matter what, right? So that's why I say be true to yourself. If you're a creator and a writer or a director, you can aim for. Unfortunately, this is the dichotomy of development. So on one hand, you've got to make this product which is unique and amazing and true to yourself, as I'm just espousing here. On the other, I've got to fucking sell it to the most common denominator possible. So it's like how do we make this so mass appeal? And if they're smart, they're going to Trojan horse it. They will be like, we do this, and when they get involved in it, the showrunner and the writers will be huge fans, really understand it. I'd love it if they got the Black Library authors involved in the writers' room; would be amazing. And then they'll be able to do the weirder stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, Val letting us know in the ear that we keep forgetting the mass appeal part of this show, but we're nailing the first half of that right there.
No, John, we did the part where we suckered them in with the funny stuff, and now they get to learn something.
The funny stuff. Let me tell you, as someone who makes quality 23-minute edits of the show on a weekly basis, it doesn't sucker them in nearly as much as I would like. But moving on, how is sort of the Warhammer IP viewed in your community, Nick? Because again, it's all of these like celebration of nerdery things have happened over the last decade or so, where everything which when I was younger and you were younger, we were kind of hiding and almost ashamed of coming out is now popular and being used to create
very
content.
ashamed.
Yeah,
it is. So a lot of people still don't know what it is, right? Or they'll be like, hey, I remember playing Hero Quest when I was a kid. That would be their way in, right? Which is fair enough. But also people will see dollar signs and they see that this company is making shit ton of money, and it has a huge dedicated super fan base, right? Where people, people watching this now and will watch it back, and the three of us and Val behind, think of the money we've spent on it, right? Just like, and would you like? I'd be like, oh no, I'm not like a super fanboy, but obviously, like, I just think, oh shit, most of my, so that's going to be hugely valuable. The fact that you do something like a Warhammer show comes on, you'll watch it, right? So that's already this fan base, and it's a proven commodity. So I'm sure some of these execs, sometimes, like a lot of them I meet, are very smart, very, very dedicated, really understand the market, and genuinely, sometimes you'll have meetings and you'll go in and this person has requested a meeting with you about a project, and you'll walk in and they won't have any idea who you are, and they'll be like, so what are we meeting about? And you're just like, sure. So I would say, but to go back to, I guess, your point, very. Like, there's no way this shouldn't be, I wouldn't say it shouldn't be a hit, but it shouldn't be a successful project on our screens at some point.
Do you think Warhammer TV kind of came out last year, like I kind of mentioned earlier, and they had a Hammer and Bolter series, which is, I want to say, inspired by Love, Death, and Robots, but that seems a little too ignoring the fact it's sort of a direct ripoff. But it is sort of coming in at like a lower sort of animation quality than kind of we're used to and kind of we're treated to. Do you think things like that hurt the overall image because we have these shows coming out? And yes, kind of the writing's pretty good. It looks really well, but it's kind of maybe a little clippier, maybe like kind of not as polished as it could be.
Not necessarily. I think that it's probably two reasons why I think they did that. One is they would probably realize how slow EV can take, so they were just like, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves. Because it will take years. Like, you won't have a Warhammer show on for 3 years at the earliest, like if it's like greenlit right now. And then on the other hand, they probably wanted proof of concept. The quality of it, I don't think will matter so much. Obviously, making a TV show, they're going to have to give over a lot more power. They're going to have to work to unions. They're going to have to pay decent salaries. They're going to have to credit everyone.
Oh, damn, it's never going to be done now.
Right, all of this stuff, which I know has, been points of contention with the Hammer and Bolter and the non-crediting and various people who have left projects and stuff, which I can't speak to. I don't know the inner workings of Games Workshop, but I imagine that they're not a traditional media company, so they have to adjust to how everything works. I can't do. I mean, they're probably more used to this. I was going to say, I can't do a bloody meeting without signing NDAs, which obviously sure they know about. But it's like I hire on a project and I have to be like, okay, is this union, non-union? That this is this, and that's just for, sometimes I do some very low budget, like online content. Low budget at this point being like 100,000. That's sad.
Yeah, some quality low budget online content coming in here.
Much less than you're used to working with.
So along those lines of the Hammer and Bolter series, the Angels of Death, other things they made it, what's stopping them from just dumping that onto an existing streaming platform?
Probably negotiating rights and basically back end, I would say. It comes down, it will just, the answer to all of this is men. Exactly, right? They said, send me that gender swapped sermon, please. And that was the sticking point. It will come down to super boring stuff like they own that all out now, and they gain every single piece of revenue from that. So why would they then give it to someone else?
Yeah. We're gonna wrap
That's
this
true.
up here in a little bit here, and give Danny time to, because I keep on jumping in over him like every time. It's our tip of
No,
the
no, no.
iceberg
You're
for
doing
Grim.
great, man.
But do you guys see Games Workshop moving beyond the tabletop to being an IP company? Because we're already starting to see it, as Val mentioned last week on an episode when he was going kind of through the financials, that the IP and the licensing is growing and growing and growing and growing. Do you ever see a
Huge.
place where, like, we're making a ton of money off this, let's just push this to the side?
I mean, I think it's already there, right? Like I mean, the tabletop is the
Warhammer
heart of it.
Fantasy References 3. Sorry, please.
Yeah, the tabletop is the heart of it, and I don't think that will ever go away. There'll always be a place for it. But it's a bit like, I don't know how much of Minecraft is now Minecraft the game.
7. Perfect. Danny, in your view as kind of a fan, obviously, I think you like this Warhammer thing. I don't know. What do you think story-wise would translate the best to a series?
Oh, I mean, I think Eisenhower was the right move. Like, it has to be some kind of like non-crazy. Like, the investment is going to be a lot less for special effects. Like, I think like having a more humanistic or human-centered approach is going to be totally the way to like introduce people to the Warhammer 40,000 universe.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
should also do a property show off of Eisenhorn, because there's some really nice buildings, and like he has some really nice houses in
He
that
does.
series. And I was like,
He's got that
I love
underwater
that.
supervillain there.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm like, how the
yeah.
fuck who found that for him? Is what I want to know.
Nick is a true Hollywood executive when every idea that's being pitched to him turns into a reality show.
Exactly right.
It's
Just lower costs, lower overheads. We can just keep churning that right out.
But now I want a Cribs, like an MTV Cribs thing, but in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. So how would
With
that
the
work?
Primarchs.
Yes. Or like, oh no, like I've always said, and I've never had the artistic skill to follow through in this, but a Primarch Babies show based on Muppet Babies, but with all of the Primarchs would be phenomenal. And you could just use like
you got yourself a deal.
Yeah, but it seems like Hollywood, so it falls apart slowly.
That's how Jon got his foot in the door.
But, I would legitimately be very sad if my foot was in the door by ripping off Muppet Babies, because that show and that lore needs to be respected as it is.
It's a rich tapestry, that lore.
It's a rich IP. The Muppets, like, man, you saw what they did with the Muppets.
Oh,
Even the Muppet sequel, which was a fantastic musical.
I was about to say Muppet Babies prequel, but that is wrong.
Whoa.
Well, in today's America, no.
Do we know who the Muppet Mothers are? Because I feel like
the Muppets fuck,
there's a lot of questions here.
Jim Henson would be the answer.
What? Don't want to know where you're going with that one.
Danny, what else do you have here?
God, this has been
here.
so enlightening.
I
mean, we covered like almost everything that I wanted to talk about. I was going to bring up the exact same point that Val did in chat, asking about why we don't port over some of the stuff from Warhammer TV into like a more mainstream like media service. But other than that, no, I don't have anything. This has been so enlightening. God,
We're going to throw this in here. Ickbard on Twitch chat is saying he thinks a Fall of Cadia movie done like the Midway movie would be great. What's your take on that?
Yeah,
Nick?
Guard Band of Brothers kind of style, like Gaunt's Ghost would be good.
I mean, I'd watch it in a heartbeat. A Fall of Cadia would be, I mean, just too expensive. Just think of the budget on it. It'd be just to do it right. That's the thing. Do you want to do it cheap or do you want to do it right? Is the I mean, that's why it comes back to the realities of Eisenhorn was a really good idea to get done, and it still might happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Necromunda, like a Sons of Anarchy style Necromunda show, would probably be pretty good too. Like that's kind of in that same vein.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
I just would imagine if you did like a Fall of Cadia, again going to Nick's point about having mass appeal, and your starting 5 minutes would be a text scroll catching you up on the way where the universe is. And it would be quite fantastic.
Just
very long.
Just 5 minutes of just like,
yeah, like
really
literally be like, okay,
yeah.
so 10,000 years ago. Yeah, no, I think it all goes from there.
It would be like, I mean, obviously everyone's tried to one time explain this to someone. Like, and you're just like, what the fuck am I saying? Like, that would be the text crawl.
Well, okay, so Nick, like, how do you pitch Warhammer? Like, your elevator pitch, right? That's a typical like Hollywood stereotype thing.
That's
like,
true.
You're stuck in
I should have
Warhammer?
prepped this. Terrible fascist future with super soldiers fighting demons, but cool.
Love it, guys.
Right?
I can't think of a better way to leave it. Danny's already quit. He's like, I can't top that.
He was like,
Nick,
I'm done.
Thank you so much for coming and talking to us. We've looked forward to this for a long time. It pains me to hear this. That's okay, because it's for the guest. What an amazing show. We learned so much. We're going to be back next Monday. And as always, it's pretty grim after dark. I'm not saluting that.